So now we're recording, so everybody knows. So just looking at a property, give me 1 second. Okay, so we have a property. It's a sixplex. Jump in if you want, just to update anything. We have a sixplex. Offer was 350. Just reviewed. I'll bring up the cash flow sheet in a moment. Down payment was 20K. VTV of 10% for 2 years, and the investor for 32.5. 5% interest only for 5 years, recoverable. CMHC is going to be used because we're using 15% down payment for 30-year amortization, and we can increase the rent under the marketplace. We're also having some parking revenue. That's all good. Just a couple questions on that. The rent. So this is located in what province? Just curious to the province. Just want to double check that. Quebec. Okay. So Quebec. Each province has their own. Great. So each province has their own. Landlord-Tenant Act. So raising rents has to be complied with that particular province. Raising rents is great if it's eligible or you're able to do that. Of course, if the units are empty, we can charge whatever we want, and the market will determine if it can sustain or it'll be rented. Obviously, if it's too high, it won't be rented. Too low, we'll get a lot of action on it. Ultimately, we're trying to find the right price. The right income that sustains a good tenant and profitability on the property. So currently the property, is it empty or is it full? As you have here, the property is fully rented and half a student, so good rent. Okay, so exactly. Okay, so raising rents, you have to use the provincial limit that you can raise them. I don't know how much. Quebec will allow you to raise. In Ontario, it's not very high, I can tell you that. Usually it's in the inflation range is what they allow you to do that for. So I don't know how much that'll impact your numbers for income. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so you have 5 rent parking spots in rent and 4 lockers. We're going to add internet on all the rent. Good. Okay, that's good. Let me bring up the cash flow sheet. It didn't come with it. Give me 1 second. I have to resend that to get the form so I can get the file. Okay, 1 second. There we go. Just opening it up now, folks. Give me 1 moment. For a second. Okay. That's us. Look at that for 1 second. Okay, and we're going to add. Okay, yeah, you reset. I erased that. Apologies. Okay, so let's just take that off. All right, so we're going to bring that up. If that's okay with you, we're going to bring that cash flow sheet up and review it. Is that okay? Okay, good. All right, so let's do a new share. We're going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, good. Everybody see that okay? Can everybody see that okay? Yeah? Size is okay? Okay, good. All right. So 350, 6 units. Just gonna make that a little bit larger. Okay, so 6 units, 42,420. Average rent's 589, 19. Parking, an extra. So we're making an extra 6,000 almost in rent and parking. That's awesome. Okay. Extra revenue is welcome. Then we have obviously our taxes, our insurance, our water and electricity. Looks like water. So I'm assuming the tenants are they are. I think you mentioned that the tenants are covering their utilities. Yes. Okay, good. So then we come down here. We see the 5% vacancy, maintenance and management at the standard rates. That's good. This is going to be net operating expenses, 47% of the total income, the gross income. That's not bad at all. Net operating income is 52,000. Let me come down here. And I see with the numbers here, I think you're trying to adjust them to the rates. Is that right? So you have 85% as the first mortgage at 30 years for 399. The second mortgage is they're putting up how much in the second mortgage exactly? Do you remember? Is that it? 20,000? Is that what they put up? I included the CMHC fees on mortgage. 20K, okay. 40-year at 10%, is that right? Okay, good. And then the down payment to get it close to, you're trying to get 10% the difference, and amortization period would be 0, and the interest rate would be 0. Yes, that's actual down payment money, is that right? No, okay. So this was borrowed money. Interest only for both. So interest only for these two, it's interest only? No principal? Okay. All right. So with this sheet, if it's interest only, and it's 20,000 and 32,000, and we see that it's above, were you trying to get the payments to match up? Is that what you did? That's how you got the, okay. So the payment is 1784, is that right? Okay. All right. So let's go down here. That'll work. We can do it that way. So let's look at the cash on cash returns over 10. So that's okay, good. The average profit per unit is 52 bucks. This is, I like to see that more at 75. PRM is 7.25, which is fine. Cap rates, okay, 7.2. We want to see if we can get that. Obviously, I mean the cap rate's a cap rate. You've already locked in a price. So the average profit per unit, we're going to have to try to increase the average profit per unit somehow. The only way really, well, it's one of the ways or some of the ways we can do that. And I think that you've already, you emailed me that you put in an offer and it was accepted, correct? And this is the numbers that we are looking at are the numbers that we're using, yes? Okay. So if the numbers that we're using are here, we can't really change that. We can't change the income numbers unless there's something you want to share in the way of income numbers. You said you were going to increase the rents a little bit. Have you looked into what you can increase them to legally? Is there a new number that for income that you've calculated? Okay, I'll let you answer that. The other things, obviously, is if we can reduce expenses. Taxes are taxes, can't move them. Insurance is insurance. We have 7 apartments. We have a 7 apartment who is not legal. The 7th apartment is not legal. We want to make it legal. Oh, I see. And that's going to bring in the additional income, correct? Okay. So let's assume that we get another, if the average is that, 589, let's go equals this times 12 for 12 months. That's going to give us another 7,070 and reduce electricity expense. Okay, so let's look at that. If we can get this up to 49, so plus this equals this plus this. Okay, give me a second. So 49,490 is the new price. I'm just going to put that in here actually. 49,490. I'm going to change that number. That's okay. We can change it back. I'm just going to come back to the numbers if we can get that extra. Okay, so if we get that average, if we get that extra, that will bump it up to 130, which will put us in a great position, and our cash on cash return jumps to 30%. That would be wonderful, okay? But currently we don't have that done yet. Is there the renovations that we're looking at? What were the costs of the renovations, or to make that legal or get it to where you need? What number is that at? Estimate. 5,000 only. So there's only 350 is what the purchase price is. Only needing $5,000 to make that work. Is that right? Yeah, the apartment's fully renovated. Okay, so renovations for this sake of this type of sheet, if you're doing rehabs, the rehab class, they'll give you their own sheet. But for us, using this sheet, second axis, okay, 355. We'd want to add the renovations into the purchase price because that's the total investment that we're really looking at. We're evaluating the investment. So 355 would be the number. That's the number. We come down here. We can renovate it. For 5,000, our ROI will be 27, almost 28%, which is outstanding. Average profit per unit 126. All excellent. This is great. Coverage ratio is outstanding. This looks really good. This looks really good. The other area that we can consider. I'm just going to back this up. Okay, so we're going to go back to the 42. I'm going to change this to 355 because that's happening. Okay. 355, we're going to put that money in. Actually, let's not, because the renovation will give us the additional income. So let's look at something else. Okay, so let's look at, you said that we could maybe reduce, I'd have to change the number of units, correct. You know what, that's right. So let's do that. I want to see what that looks like. So let's do that, actually. That was a huge jump, because we just increased the whole amount. We didn't. 4490. That's going to go there. That'll go 355. That'll change to 7 units. Okay. That's right. The average stays the same. We go back. Now the return's the same. It's the average per unit per month is 108. Still outstanding. Excellent. Would taxes go up because of the 7th unit? Yeah, that is going to go up relative to that change. That'll be reassessed in the next, tax when they look at it and they reassess the value of the property and what it's worth. Yeah, and the taxes will go up, but that's okay. That's okay. It'll cut into that, but not in a huge way. Won't be huge. To give you an example, I don't want to say it's exactly like this, but if we did, this divided by 6 units, you're looking at an extra $1,000. If we added that another 1,000, which it won't be, but if we added another 1,000, because it's not prorated like that, this would be say 7,000, 7,000 and 15. Say. Okay, so let's see what the impact of that is. Okay, so you're still 96 bucks. There will be an increase. There will be an increase, but that's okay. We're okay with paying taxes because it means we're making money. So, or in property, you most definitely need to make sure you make money. So that's going to happen, but that's okay. That's still the right direction for sure. Yeah, it won't go up that much, but I'm just saying, even if we prorated it per unit, we'd still be way ahead. That's like worst. It won't even happen to that rate. That would be something assessed by them, and they would give you the actual number when that happens. Insurance is insurance. That might actually go up a little bit. Also, in the following year, or when that renews, if you declare the 7th unit, which you should. Water and sewage, it's not there. So you said that there was an expense that you were going to try to bring down. Which expense was that again? Department. What was it? What was the expense? Electricity. Now, how are you going to bring your electricity expense down? Electricity of the 7th unit by 2,000? Divide by 2. So how are we going to reduce that by 2,000? Just curious. Because obviously that'd be huge. Any expenses that we reduce goes to our bottom line. In other words, that's direct profit, extra profit, additional profit. So if I change this to 2,000 and come down here, that simple change, because we're back to the regular numbers, that simple change is going to have a massive impact on the property. So let's go back for a second. I just want to do it here to make sure we're doing it right here. Okay, so this is going to go back to, let's go, equals this times 12 times the number of units here. Okay, because it was the other way around. Okay, so it was actually 42. I guess I gotta go this way again. 42. There it is, 42. Okay, so let's go back to the original numbers. Okay, so just to give you the impact of reducing expenses, which is huge. If we can reduce the expense of just the electricity bill. So right now we're looking at, remember we were looking at $52.11.59. So if we can just reduce, because this is bottom line money, this directly goes into our pocket, to $2,000, right? Watch what happens. We see a huge jump. Just reducing your electricity will make this property hugely better, like amazing, just by reducing that $2,000, because that $2,000 goes straight into your pocket. So coverage ratio is in excellent condition. Cash on cash, 17.77. That's decent, and we're making $80 a unit. So that would be wonderful if we can reduce the electricity to 2,000. So that's one way we can make this work. Yeah, for sure. That's excellent. Okay, so let's just look at this for vacancy maintenance. So vacancy is 5% realistic in that area. Is it lower than that, higher than that? Okay, good. All right, so I would never go lower than 5. And I would always bump up higher. If it was 6%, I'd go to 10. If it was 11, I'd go to 15. Always be on the, is 5.1 is what it is in this area, 5.1? Yes, okay. So you're right on the line. You might want to bump it a little bit, but 5's okay. If that's the number, it's 5. Maintenance is 5 we have here. Is there any reason to believe that the maintenance will be higher or lower? Or we won't go lower than 5. But the maintenance on the property, it's in good condition. You're doing the renovation of the 7th unit or the changes to it. You said it was renovated, so that's great. Is the condition of the property healthy? Okay, good. And management, how are we working on management? Is there a property management company that you're looking at right now? It has good maintenance, good. Management cost is 5.5%. Currently it's 5.5% and 200 on new rents. Oh, that's outstanding. That's great. Okay, So then this is what I probably do. I probably, just with those numbers, okay? So I'm glad that the management is lower. Current management, you're happy that they're happy with the management. As far as you know, management's good management. So if that's the case, and we want to continue using that management, which is great to continue to use that management, if you know they got a good history, um, that gives us. I would leave this at 10 just to give us a buffer on the maintenance. Sorry, the vacancy, which is right at the 5 mark. So I would still stash away. Remember, folks, this money here is unused. It's accounted for, but it's unused. If there's no vacancies that year, that's our money. If there's no maintenance that year, that's our money. If the management stays at the 5.5% for management, that's wonderful too. So this is extra money. It's money we're making, but we're putting it aside in a separate place to address any future maintenance or vacancy to pad that. So just to give you an idea, folks, of how important this is, if you put each one of these for, let's put the number here, let's do this, 5 years, I would save an extra $12,000, right? If, let's see, 1 second here. For these two ones below, we're looking at another 12. If we sum these, we would see that would be an extra 48,000 in 5 years that we're putting the money away. So I think this is definitely a way to keep it safe, keep it good. If we that money, well, the management, I don't want to say that we're using, we're going to be saving that because we're not. So let's leave that as zero. Just let's leave that as zero. It's still $24,000 if the maintenance, if the property's in good condition, and there's no vacancy, say, for 5 years. We've stashed away $24,000, which I think is wonderful. Keeps us safe and secure. So currently, the way the property looks, looks like we have a plan, and that's great. We have a plan to get this above 75 a door, which is going to be excellent. The cash on cash is going to move too. So currently, based on these numbers, this property looks pretty healthy. The coverage ratio will also go up. Based on the increase of income through the 7th unit and or the reduction of electricity, cost of electricity. So this looks like it's in great shape. It looks pretty healthy. And if I'm understanding you correctly, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, you can correct it. You have no money in this property. Is that right? Everybody get that? Accepted offer, no money in the property. Now, it's not completely done yet. You just, okay, paid fees. Okay. So I want everyone to recognize that although it's not going to happen all the time, it can be structured where everybody's making money and everybody's happy, and you can get into a property with little or no money down. So that's wonderful. So what I'd ask you to do, if you guys could keep us updated on this, and we'll continue to follow this. We were on the final line of the financing. Great. Final stage of financing. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Please update us. We'd love to hear that this property went through for you and it continues to profit for you. We're very excited for you. Very excited for you. That's awesome. That's great. Okay. Anybody have any questions about this property? We're good? Okay. Okay. I assume we're good. So I'm gonna let this one go. Okay. And here we go. Stop sharing for a second. All right, excellent. Okay, so please keep us updated, of course, and we'll continue to follow the progress of that particular property. Good stuff. All right, so there was another email I received. Okay, and this was, let's see. I think you're on the call. Let's see. Well, maybe not. Well, there you are. Wendy, you were looking at a property. Wendy, there? Okay, so this particular one, okay, so I'm not ready to share this one yet, just because of the way the information is put together. If you want, though, I'll use your property sheet if you want to evaluate it. Would you like me to do that? Or the property, it's listed as a property pro forma. I can use that. We can look at that. And what I'll do is I'll make sure there's no additional information. Okay. So let me see about this one. Let's forward. Okay. So yeah, I was reading up on that. It's a buy, reno it, then refi it, then rent it. Let's look at that together. Give me 1 second. Let's see what this one. Okay, this is another one actually. Timothy, you just sent me something, yes? One second. Let me look at Wendy's first. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to bring up the pro forma for Wendy's. We'll look at that. And I'm assuming that you received that from the person who wants to do this property with you. Is that right? Okay. So let me just check something here. Okay. Give me 1 second, folks. Alright, just want to take a quick look at this to see if there's any information on there that you might not want to share initially. Okay. Alright, so let's walk through this one together. Okay, another investor is looking for a joint venture with a partner. Okay, good. Wendy, we'll look at that. And Timothy, you did send me something, yes? Okay, we should have time to, okay, should have time to look at that one too. Okay, so let's look at that one first. We're gonna look at, okay, this one. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so this one, okay, so the property's appraised value, this is after repair, is 525, correct? That's what they're saying. Remaining in the house, don't care. Original down payment right now. Remaining on refi 20 mortgage after refi 420, rate 3.6, monthly payment is 109. Okay, so professional inspection, those are some fees. I assume they've vetted this property already, looks like. Let's vacancy property, and they have it under contract, correct? As far as you know? Okay, good. All right. So, you know what? I'm going to pass on this. Well, here. This is actually the numbers that I was more interested in initially, at least. Can everybody see that okay? Okay. So, post-renter appraisal is 525, mortgage 420, remaining investment 30, end of equity, profit after refi 74. Investors 50% share of equity, 37,325. Investors ROI after refi from equity is 123. Okay, so I'm gonna read up. I'm gonna read up on that. Give me 1 second. So I gotta do something, folks. Sorry. Let me just. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's. Okay, I just want to double check something. Okay, so I'm going to read it from your email because it's a little bit clearer there. Okay, so where was it? The breakdown. I guess I was looking at the post-reno appraisal value, 425 mortgage. So the property is going to be refied. The money is going to be brought out. And I had, what was I looking at? My apologies. I was looking at the breakdown of it. Hold on here. So I gotta make this a little smaller, folks. Sorry, it moves too quickly. Okay, so let's start here. Cost of the property is 375. Down payment is 20%. Down payment is 75. Now they're looking for half, right? Is that right, Wendy? Okay, so you're getting half of the 75 and mortgage term years, 30-year monthly payment, 124. Okay, so and maybe it's accounted for. I can't see it. I didn't see it, but if you do a 30-year mortgage, if there's any term on this mortgage, so I'm assuming this is a variable mortgage, right? Do you know, Wendy? Because if you break the term on the mortgage to refi, that's going to be a penalty. But maybe it's addressed. Okay, maybe it's addressed. Maybe just to note that. Okay, if it's in the, it might be in the notes already. But it needs to be a variable. So if you refi, everybody can keep that in mind when we do a term mortgage. If we refi immediately, that's going to break the mortgage, and there's going to be a penalty typically. Legal costs, property tax. Okay. Reserve from total purchase. Total cash required to close. So are you paying half of this 85 or is the requirement all of this to you, Wendy? Of the 85, the original 85. That's half, right? And then you got to pay half for the reno, right? I think what it was set up for was half of this and half on the reno. Yeah, that's what it looked like to me too. Okay, so less vacancy provision, 3%. I mean, we like to use 5. Property tax, insurance, repairs, and maintenance are 5. I like that. Property management, 8%. Might be, doesn't look like there's a cost there. Okay, so net operating income, net cash flow shows a negative net income of principal. So the idea, obviously there's no money being made during the renovation. Everybody recognizes that, right? There's no money to be made. So we don't expect to make money in the first few months, because this is negatively cash flowing because there is no income. So after we refi it, so the appraised value after we fix it is 425. We refi it. They're going to give us, they're saying, so basically, let me double check it, but I'm sure it's in around that. Yeah, so this is basically 80%. So they're getting a refi of 80%. So that's going to give us, an end value of this minus this. That's going to pull out 105,000 in equity. Okay. So mortgage refinance. Okay, so here we can have a term because we're holding and renting it if that's what we're doing. Professional expense, that's not going to be done. Legal cost, okay. Property tax, title insurance, reserve fund. I'm sure this is from the original one. Total investment is 30,000. That's after the refi is what they're asking from you, right, Wendy? Is that right? That you'll end up with an investment of 30,000 after the refi. But the initial investment is going to be, okay, so the initial investment, total remaining investment is 30,000. The initial investment is going to be half the rental cost and half the down payment. Okay, so original down payment, purchase price 75, profit from rental, original remaining investment is 20,000. Let me go up for a second. Mortgage after refinancing, difference, estimated rental cost. So estimated rental cost is 65,000, so you'll be paying half of that, and you'll be paying half of the down payment, correct? So that's about 130,000 if I look at the Purchase is down payment is 75, so 75 plus 65 is actually 140. You're putting up 70,000. Is that correct, Wendy? Is what they're asking for, 70,000? Okay, so we're going to put up 70,000. We're going to refi the property, and we're going to pull out 105. That'll be split between both of you. So you'll each receive 50. Well, you're not going to get all of that because there's some costs here. And it appears that if your end investment is total remaining investment is 30,000. That looked different though in the email. That said 20,000. Just look at something, folks. So rate of appreciation is 5%, possibly, yeah. I don't know the area, so maybe it is 5%. Not bad to look at that. Cash flow is going to double and triple. Because all of the money is going into the principal reduction, even if it was. How is that happening? Year 1, we have 33. Year 2, it doubles, and then it triples in year 3. Cash flow? Do you know anything about that, Wendy? How that works? No? Year 4, it goes up to 13. It's going up by quite a bit. A third, it looks like. Oh, and then it stops in year 5 at 1605. Okay, I'm not sure what they were doing there. Principal reduction is good to know. I mean, that's what you're paying down on the mortgage, so that's good. So I'm not sure how they came up with that. Okay. Oh, I see. I see what they're doing. They're just adding it. I see. My apologies. 6 would be that would be this plus this, right? Or we're adding 33. My apologies. We're adding 33 all the way across. That makes sense. A year 5, why does it stop? Do you know? Okay, well, at least we know that they're just adding the 33. They're adding 3,300 basically to each year, and that's the cumulative, like you were saying. That's what that was. Okay, so return on investment with appreciation. Okay, just a couple things with this one. Return on investment with appreciation, I'm not a fan of. I would rather know what the return on investment is without appreciation, because that can only be realized when the property actually gets sold. So I'd rather have a 0 appreciation value to look at the return on investment on the property without that. Again, this looks like it's a cumulative. And that can only be realized if you sell it. Cash flow is really what I care about. I think it's just a 5-year deal. Okay, so cash flow is really what you care about. Okay, so how much of the cash flow do you get to keep at the end of the month? If you are, a partner in the property, obviously we can. It's not crazy to assume the property is going to go up in value. That's not concerning. The amount is tough to say. If it's going to raise 5%, that's not insane either. That's below average really for the country. Year over year. So when we look long term at least, so that's not insane. I guess that at the end of the day, this is what I would want to know, and they did illustrate to this. How much money will I have in this property? How much money will I have in this property after the renovation is done? Which, as far as you understand, how much money we have in this property when it's done? Wendy, they told you that. I remember reading it. The number. Oh, you lost sound? Can you guys not hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Wendy, can you hear me? Okay. All right, Wendy, how much did they tell you? Because I remember reading it in the email. I'm having a challenge really deciphering this breakdown to give you a better idea of it, because some of the metrics that they're using I might not use or include. Okay, so how much are they telling you, Wendy, you will? So purchase price is $375, cost of purchase $85, renovation 65, total investment 150. Okay, so here it is. So 150 is what you're splitting with them, correct? That's what you're putting up, half of that. So 75,000. Okay, good. That's clear. Okay, so refinance it. After we refinance it, monthly cash flow, yearly cash flow, 5-year cash flow. So if I look at this yearly cash flow, okay, mortgage pay down, I'm not going to worry about. So that's all bonus. So let's look at this. If I look at this divided by, well, I don't need to, 137. So you'll be splitting the cash flow, is that right, Wendy? Half the cash flow will go to you per month? Okay, so half the cash flow goes to you. You'll put up how much at the end of the deal? Do you remember what are they telling you you'll put in at the end of the deal after the refi? Because initially it's 75, but you're getting a good chunk of that back. So it looked like 30, which was half, which was 15, but that's not right. Or I was not reading it right. Because if we refi and we get 105, less expenses was 150. You'll each be in for about, looks like 50,000. Is that right, Wendy? Or am I reading that wrong? Because I remember the email was 20,000. You're unsure. Okay, you know what I want you to do, Wendy, for me? Is I want you to put it in either the 6 key indicator sheet, the new one that I've created or modified, or the cash flow sheet. And we can look at it again. Because I think I've created a little more confusion with this, trying to break and understand this down. So maybe we do it that way. It looked like they needed a response relatively quickly. Is that right, Wendy? And I want to double check. Is this one of our students, Wendy? No. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's do this, Wendy. Tonight, if you can, or tomorrow, can you put those numbers in and send it to me right away, and I'll respond right away, because we know this is time sensitive, and we'll see what we can come up. Okay, and then we'll follow up with this one. I'm going to say, folks, we'll follow up with this one next week. Okay, is that okay, Wendy? But me and you will follow up with it immediately. Okay, good, because I think I created more confusion possibly trying to read through this. So let's leave this one alone. Let's go to a different one, which will be this one. Okay, Timothy, you would like me to review this, correct? Okay, good. All right. Oops, let's get rid of that. Okay, so price 39999, 230 rental units, commercial, Conquest, FedEx, U-Haul. These are all the income streams, which is 560,000. We look at the expenses, taxes, insurance, electricity, snow and garbage, utilities. Okay, we come down. This is outstanding when we look at this. Now the management's going to be different for this. The maintenance and the vacancy are obviously going to be different, right? Because it's a storage, self-storage, correct? So these numbers have been verified through the seller, is that right? I'll let you answer that. So we're looking to find out, has this been verified by the seller? Yeah, the vacancy number is the existing fill. Okay, the maintenance and the management, those were numbers that were supplied to you or verified through the seller, correct? Okay, good. All right. And where are we with this deal? Is this something you're just looking at, or have we already made a move on it? No move. Okay. All right. So when we look at the numbers, we see the second mortgage. Is that going to be, just got the info, is the second mortgage going to be held by the seller? You haven't asked yet. Okay. And this is, looks like you're trying to simulate interest only, yes? Okay. All right. And zero down payment. So just to give you an idea, folks, it's not insane at all to expect the 65 for the first, second 25, and 10 for the last one is not ridiculous at all or crazy. Okay, so when we do that and we put the 10% down, and that gives us 399. It's telling us that the cash on cash return is 0.16. I'm assuming that's there it is, 16%, which is fine. But the average cost per unit is 23.24. Okay, $23 per unit. Now I want to keep this in mind. This is a storage facility, so this is different when you're looking at it versus we're looking at a unit, self storage, than looking at houses, right? The maintenance obviously and stuff like that. It's a different environment. So the amount of money that for doing something like this, I'd be willing to accept a smaller amount. I don't know if 23 is that number, but the cash flow, remember how many units we got here? We have 230 units. So when we look at 230 units times 230, we already know it's up there. $5,392 per month is what we're making off this investment. Okay. Now look at the cap rate. The cap rate is 8.9. So the average cost per unit. So we would like to bring that up as much as we can. And what are the ways that we can bring that up? Well, obviously the way to bring the average, and this is what I would tell you, try to get this as high as you can without breaching this below 10%, and vice versa. Okay. So if I had a high average per unit, if I had 150 per unit, but my cash on cash return was only 7%, I try to figure out a way to get that to 10, even though it's going to bring my cash flow down. So I can get my return around 10 is what I'm looking for, and I'm looking for 75 a unit, just as a general rule. Okay. So if I was doing that, what could I do? Well, because my return is at 16, I can bring it down. So maybe I do 20 and 15. Okay, and you can see that the cash on cash is reducing as I do this, and then you see the average per unit is going up. What if I went 15? Okay, try that again. 15 to 20, I'm still okay. If I went 10 and 25, I'm at 13. If I went 5 and 25, I'm at 57. I'm still at 320. If I put down the 35% totally, I'm up to 65 per unit, and the cash on cash return is 13%. Okay, so I could could look at doing something like this. Now, the reality is, I mean, we're putting ourselves in a position where we're supposed to come up with 1.4 million, right? If that's not realistic, then it's a moot point, right? But let's look at, and you can see that look at the coverage ratio is 205. The coverage ratio basically saying, look, we can easily cover the cost of this property. We're almost making double the cost, the carrying cost of this property, the total cost of this property, and we're being left with a huge chunk left over. And you can see that this is now up to 15,000. It's for cash flow. That being said, we're making 15,000, but the cash on cash return, we reduced it. Okay, so Timothy, if we're looking at this property, I would probably be looking at this as a realistic approach, but still put you at 400,000 in the way of down payment. This also could go to 10. That would be standard. It'd be fine to look at this as a realistic kind of approach to this seller. obviously we want to see, Timothy, how motivated they are. So the first question I would do, one of the first steps I'd look at is just reaching out to them and say, look, we're interested in your property. Um, what kind of creative financing are you open to? And businesses typically, if they want, if they're looking for this kind of price tag, they're open to creative financing. They know they have to help you finance this property because, not many people are walking around with, 1.4 million to invest directly. And even the 1.4 million, and us making 13%, that's not bad. It's not a bad position to be in. But that would have to be cash because any additional financing on top of that 1.4 million would affect our cash on cash return. Okay, and our actual cash flow would be reduced. Okay, it was listed for 4.5 this spring, and they dropped it to 4 last month. Okay, so clearly they've had sorry, my apologies. Possibly they've had interest, but nobody's jumped on it, which tells you the it's overpriced for its market or the people in the market for that particular property. So that we see the reduction. So, what the other option we can do, folks, obviously, is we can reduce the price. If we go down to reducing the price to 3.5, 3.5 million, that's obviously going to have an effect on our property. 73 and 16, and that's with us putting the money down, which I don't suggest that's going to I don't believe that's the way to go typically. But you can see that if we put this ratio of 65, 25, and 10, still asking for 350 on your part. Okay, so let's see. It was this. Okay, so the other issue is the big commercial building lease is up this month, so it needs to be filled. So that is part of our income stream. Is that what you're saying, Timothy? This 150, this 12,500. So this is going to disappear. They're leaving. Oh, that's going to be different. Okay, so if that's a big fat 0, that's going to be a problem. Well, not a problem. It's just going to change the numbers. Right? So, okay. So let me ask you folks, we have a few minutes. Do we want this? What do we want to happen? Do we want the unit to go empty? Do we want the unit to stay filled? Well, what are your thoughts? Anybody? Or we could just look at the benefits of both, right? Not, as you're typing in, you could type in, I'll talk a little bit. If they stay filled, ideally. Well, yes and no. Yeah, that's a great question. Dave's asked, how quickly could we do it? If you got to remember, and you're right, Sierra. You obviously want the income stream, but remember, if the income stream is not there, that creates more pressure on the seller to work with you to sell the property. That creates a bigger problem for them. We only get really paid when we solve problems. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, is there demand for that commercial space? That's a great question. Is there demand for that commercial space? Can we rent it out? That's a large chunk of income gone if that stays empty. So if that place is empty, we would have to do one of two things, okay? Or we could approach it one of two ways. So one way would be to say, look, this price would be negotiated for sure, of course. So if this was empty, we could say to them, look, your property is missing, this commercial space is not rented out. We know that your documentation shows that it was rented out for 12,500. What's realistic for replacing that income, and how long will it take? So let them give you the information. So if they say, well, you should be able to rent it out in 90 days, right? Or 6 months, or whatever it is. What you can do is you can approach them for creating some money, maybe putting in an escrow account to cover the loss of that particular income until it is filled. fill VTD, the time is empty. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, obviously they're gonna. I shouldn't say obvious because we really don't know the motivation. Obviously, they've reduced it 500,000. We know that. We know that it's coming up empty. That commercial space is coming up. For all we know, though, that space is already accounted for, right? They have someone else going in there, and I'm wondering why the person's leaving. That could be a question we could ask. Um, yeah, for sure. There be. Yeah, that's a great point too. You want to know, you know, what's at the end of the day, we've got to figure out either how to replace the income or take that income off the purchase price is what we're trying to figure out. So, uh, let's do this. Let's ask him some questions, Timothy. Let's ask him some questions. So, question, would be how open are you to financing? Start there. Then we want to know about the commercial space. You've obviously been alerted that it's going to be empty in a month. Is that right? And is there any plans to replace that tenant? Did they tell you there was any plans to replace that tenant? Didn't say. And another question we'd want to ask ourselves is, can I use that commercial space into more self-storage? Is it sustainable? Can I expand that area into self-storage? Yeah, that's right. They're leaving. They're leaving. Why are they leaving? Why, as Dave's saying, like, why are they leaving? Maybe it's a lease issue that can be negotiated or repaired that they can stay. That might be an issue. So there are lots of different possibilities for us to consider. The best thing we can do is at this point, obviously, is to find out, um, you know what what are the options? What are the options for us, right? What are the options for us in reference to um, this empty space? How is it going to be managed? There is also empty land on the other side, could almost double the self-storage. Okay, so that's all great. That's going to cost money, and we got to make sure it's sustainable. But if that's an area, if that's an opportunity, for sure, right? And the other thing to consider, you know, is this. Yeah, lease out land to be semi-truck trailers. Yeah, for space. Yeah, for sure, parking space for it. Lots of different things. Lots of different things we can do uh, or RVs. Yeah. So trailer park. I mean, there's lots you can do. The thing at this point is it has RV2 already. Oh, that's great. Okay. So there is opportunity there to expand in any of those areas, including the RVs. The biggest thing we want to do is try to understand the motivation. What is their problem? How can we help them? What do they need? What can't they change? Do they have to get 4 million? What's the problem that they're dealing with, and why are they selling as much as we can get? And create. I mean, if they're not open to creative financing, that's probably going to be a problem. Not the end, but it might create a serious problem because it'll really put pressure on the return on investment. Although the cash flow will go up, if I remove that commercial building, that's a serious kick. That's all bottom line money because well, I shouldn't say that. Some expenses will go down, I'm sure, but not much. Not much, I would tell you. I would guess we'd have to do the research. So this is what I would say, Timothy. Get the information as much as you can, as quickly as can, and find out. So we're trying to find out what the problem is, and are they open to creative financing? That's some questions we can ask for them. You might not want to send them an email with 14 requests, Timothy. You might want to send them with one or two at a time, and see how quickly you get a response. Sometimes when you list requests for information, folks, often that will be viewed as you're looking at it as a series of problems. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. It's like saying these are all problems with this property. Excuse me. So you want to build up momentum with requesting information from them. Uh, Typically it is not always true, but I would start small, Timothy, and say, um, the commercial building. We know that's going to be going to be empty, or do you have a plan with that? And are you open to creative financing? Start with, obviously, we are interested in your property. We just like to collect a little more information. Can you help us out? And see what they'll give you in the way of information. What we'll do, Timothy, is we can continue to follow up on this property in the coming weeks. Okay? Any questions about this one? Okay. So we'll follow up. We'll see how that goes. See how that goes. Something. Okay. Just going to check something real quick. Just wrapping up. Okay. Let's see something. So Sarah, you're not on the call right now. I think you're in the momentum. Paul, are you on the call? Folks, it's okay. These are the students that are sending me emails. I want to make sure. Okay, so they're not on the call right now. I'll respond to them directly. Okay, any questions before we wrap up? That was a good session. We covered a couple of different scenarios. So we'll continue to follow up with those properties and see what happens. And again, anything you want reviewed, I think it's wonderful to review it together and give you a perspective on it. Obviously, there's other perspectives or other directions that people might want to take them. My goal is to give you additional view and information on the properties to ensure that you're getting as much information as possible. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we don't make mistakes and we do things the right way. And this is why we use our teams and our power teams and professionals, including our support from our trainers. Which, please, I want you to take advantage of your trainers in a good way. Reach out to them also and ask them questions. Send them your properties, considering they were the ones who taught you that specific area. Whether it's lease options or buy, rent, and hold, or flipping, or foreclosure, whatever it is. Okay, I want you to make sure you use all your mentors, use your resources. Okay, this is what's going to get us where we need to go. Okay, any questions before we wrap up? Are we good? If you're good, type in the word yes or Y. My pleasure, folks. My pleasure. Okay, excited about deals happening for you. I'm very, very excited for it. I want to follow up and continue to track success. You know how to reach me if you need me. We are wrapping up the session. The last session is now posted up on YouTube. You can view that. I'm sure you all have the link for the YouTube. Subscribe once you get there so you'll know when new videos are up. And this one will be posted the following Tuesday. Everybody have a great week and good hunting, and we will talk to you soon. My pleasure.